everyone, I'm Sagan MacIsaac and I'm a Senior Associate at Art Plus Public Unlimited. This is a new video series where we've teamed up with Canadian Art Forecast to bring you a behind-the-scenes look at Canadian artist practices. Today I'm joined by Mac Lenters. Mac is a visual artist in Toronto. He's exhibited both solo and group exhibitions across Canada. Mac received his BFA from OCAD University and his Visual and Digital Arts diploma from Humber College. At the heart of his recent work is an exploration into discovering harmonies and contrasts, linking the natural and technological worlds by examining the questions they pose in an advancing time. Through a dualistic media practice of painting and 3D rendering, Mac forms colorful and anfractuous worlds that echo a fascination with the intricacies of nature and society. Mac's research stems from personal histories amidst the forests and lakes of Northern Ontario and explores newly emerging technology in his work. Thanks so much for joining me, Mac.
Thank you so much for having me, Sagan. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you today.
For sure, yeah.
So I nodded to it as I was reading your bio, but the first thing I want to ask you about is how you tend to fuse imagery of both rural and natural landscapes with very urban and very futuristic elements when you're kind of creating these digital worlds in your work. So could you speak to me a little bit about what that relationship is like between natural and imagined landscape?
Yeah, for sure. I think my interest with both those kind of organic and inorganic subjects really stem from the places I've lived and growing up in Northern Ontario. I grew up in a village with about 500 people, and I was always outside and playing, and I found when I used to draw and make paintings, all my lines were so organic. But moving to Toronto, my instinctual kind of natural mark making got really geometric and really angular, 3D perspective, almost like a precursor to me doing 3D. I was drawing so many everything was cubes and rectangles. And definitely that was me absorbing the environment of the city. And and I keep a lot of sketchbooks. So I noticed if you flip through the kind of sketchbooks, there's this evolution where my kind of organic drawings meet this really angular, hard surface kind of abstraction stuff. And that kind of led into once I discovered the digital art side of things and 3D rendering, I just I love the tension you can create with placement of organics and inorganic things together, and it kind of it never gets boring in the 3D, in my little 3D world too. It's kind of ever expanding, and so I think it definitely was from growing up north. I'd always build tree forts and stick forts and stuff, and I still kind of feel like I'm doing that with my work.
Right.
Just more in a graduated sense, I guess.
Are any of the settings that we see in your work based on real places, or is it all imagined?
I would say everything is based off of somewhere, right. Where I've been, as a personally meaningful place. Some of my works, they're not often depictions of those places, but I try to capture the feeling. So maybe somewhere I experienced there was a large boulder or something, and that might be the jump off point for a piece of work, working with a large boulder. And then I'll often title the work Balsam Lake Rock or something like that, similar to the place. Something cool recently that I've done is starting to use GIS data, so actual satellite data, and converting it to 3D meshes. So Google has an amazing open source data of maps, and NASA has open source height topographical maps. And with software you can kind of just grab places in their terrain and just put them into 3D worlds and then start building from real places. So I've been doing that as well. For instance, some of the landforms I take from that process are like glacial mountains and rainforests, and even these places I try to select are meaningful to me. Yeah, so everything is loosely based off of something,
Yeah.
but often it'll start with like my idea, and then it's just like it's like drawing one line and then just lines go everywhere. It just builds into something new. So
Yeah, I think that's what something special about your work is that there are moments of it feeling really familiar, but you're not sure why because you know this place doesn't quite exist.
Mhm.
But there are kind of like, yeah, little bits and pieces within the landscape that you can, like you said, like that evoke a feeling that
Mhm.
that a lot of people I think can resonate with or feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I love little intricate natural spots, and I'm always just trying to build them. Um, and I think that's what that feeling might be, like just those little natural places. And it's something kind of funny. During one of my thesis presentations, I had a big print up, and I remember making this one piece. Just, I mean, there was the whole context behind it, but what kind of made me finish it, it looked like a really good fishing spot, like all the map and everything. So I think there's those funny little moments in all the work too.
Who are some of your kind of influences with your work? Or do you have a mentor?
Hmm,
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about kind of where you draw inspiration from and whose work you look to.
for sure. Even I kind of consider my work in the realms of painting still with like composition. So I look at a lot of painters.
Hmm.
My favorite painter right now is Avery Singer,
Yes.
with the big airbrush, the 3D paintings. I wish I thought of that, but for sure Avery, and like I like Terry Winters and Julian Schnabel, and um, I growing up I love the romantic painters like Turner
Hmm.
and all that. So
Yeah.
I think I always try to capture that like sublime or from I try to, but like that's always a
Right.
thought. Those people, yeah, been lucky enough to build kind of a network or a connection of some just amazing people who have been super helpful. Either that was through school or just having connections in our work and reaching out for a conversation,
Hmm.
which can a lot of artists like everyone wants to help each other, so just reaching out. One of my mentor kind of people is Cole Swanson. Cole has been super helpful. He's always there to check over a submission or help out, and that's super helpful, getting a second pair of eyes. And um, Alex McLeod definitely has been an inspiration and a friend, and definitely helped me with my confidence to just jump into being just a digital artist. Like I thought I had to draw, I thought I had to paint, to get shows and um, find a career. I thought I had to make paintings, but
Right.
he really kind of flipped the switch on that, and now I'm pursuing all digital. And yeah, no, he's been absolutely super helpful and generous with his time. And um,
Yeah, it's
I
great
mean,
to hear because Alex, I think, made that similar shift of painter into just fully focusing on digital work. So that's a nice connection point to talk about, I'm sure, with him and get guidance on. I had another question that we're sort of touching on, but so you do work in oil painting and also digitally. I'm curious to know what that relationship looks like for you and do you learn from one to apply to another? And yeah, I'd like to hear about that.
completely, like I 100% do. And I think it might be kind of funny that my digital influences my painting like a lot. Like
Mm.
recently, I've just kind of started. I start my paintings digitally now, and then I'll finish them on the canvas.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so yeah, so I'll make something and have kind of like I do my sketches digitally, and then I'll go to the canvas with this this printout of what I made, and it translates, so it gets looser and it gets that like painterly love to it. But I think it's definitely just doing 3D and like being in the software and in this world for so long. Like everything, my painting is so much more like structured and then like rigid, I guess. but vice versa, kind of flipping things, I still really compose and think about my my 3D practice, my digital practice as painting.
Right.
Not as a final output of painting. It's definitely a digital media, but you know, with line, shape, color, all those fundamentals of art, and even like classical ideas of composition and that kind of stuff. I still have a strong sense of that. Being a painter first, right? I kind of brought that to my digital. So
Mhm.
I still kind of think all of it as painting.
Right.
Yeah, if people aren't kind of familiar with the whole digital art, they might see the prints on the wall, but might be thinking like, how did they get to that? So the first thing is kind of like if I was going to make a painting, I kind of think about the substrate, but mine is just a blank file. So I think about the dimensions in pixels, and then I scale that to inches if I'm going to print it, or I think about like 1080p, 4K if it's on screens. So I always think about the native like resolution of what it's going to be. So if it's printing, the pixels per inch. Yeah, so once I kind of have like a groundwork or a base template kind of set up, I'm I'm there in my completely blank file. It's like staring at a blank canvas. And like I said earlier, I'll have either like some sort of inspiration based off of a place, or often a lot of music I find inspiring. And yeah, it's kind of like drawing. So I'll create like work with vertexes and edges and lines. So I'll start with primitive kind of 3D polygons, so like cubes, toruses, cones, and then you kind of add vertex detail and geometry, right? And you end up with you can end up with really highly like realistic like realistic like rocks and really high detailed polygons. And the way you do that, it's kind of interesting. You use things called maps, and so you can have displacement maps, normal maps, um, bump and height color maps, and these are images that you plug in to materials that then you apply to the polygons you made, and these maps give information to the rendering engine. So whether it's about light, if you could use a roughness map to tell where on the object it's rough and where it's shiny, and yeah, you can get really complex nodes, and it's all these little little nodes and arrows and lines, and you make the materials. And then what I'll often do too is make, and I've been kind of assembling an asset library. So I'll have, so if I make something for say the piece behind me, I'll still have all those parts for my next one. And the work kind of grows in this world because I often, I'm reusing and reusing. And so now I've got this kind of big library. It's almost like Legos, like really complicated building blocks. And those are what become the basis of like the world building work. And then, I played for a long time with lighting and, and subject. If there's something more specific, you have to, I'll model that as well. And then it's something that you don't really have to, I guess you do think of in composing, right? With painting, I place cameras around in the scene, in the 3D space. So you can get multiple angles, and you really play with the light and all that stuff till you find something you like. And then the next stage is once you have everything nice, your work is complete there, you can render it, and that is just finalizing the picture. So the render engine will make all these little squares, and it'll scan over every kind of pixel in your image and calculate all the light bounces. It will kind of accommodate, I guess, for all the different maps and everything. So it's kind of like the final, it's like varnishing, I guess, like where you get to see like the final image. But yeah, so then you have a file, and then what you do with that, you can print it, you can project it. So yeah, it's definitely a little bit different than the traditional kind of charcoal on paper or acrylic. So yeah, eventually it's mainly when my computer starts just like shooting up flames that I have to stop.
When that fan goes on.
My neighbors are banging on the wall.
No.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for taking me through that, because I know, I can understand certain elements of it, but it's not something I studied or do. So I don't know these programs intimately. And it's, it's nice to hear a little bit more about your process.
Oh, I also do with the recent animations a lot of composing.
Yeah, I have seen some of your work that is animation and that has a soundtrack to it, and it becomes a very like immersive type experience. When you're working digitally, what's kind of your ideal presentation for someone? Like how do you want your work to live in the world? Is it on screens, or have you presented your work in different formats?
Yeah, no, that's an awesome question. When I start a piece, I almost kind of think of where it's going to live. So if it's large format, like a projector, I don't really have one set answer of how I want things to be presented all the time. A lot of my work mainly ends up in print and then framed, which is kind of the traditional idea. But I'm really getting into the idea now of my work living just digitally, and even just creating work that's for the smartphone.
Oh yeah.
Something interesting. So when you have the work and you have your phone, you're actually enjoying the final product. Like you don't have to find a TV, find a screen. You're not watching a proof. So I'm working in kind of that tall, smartphone ratio. I think that's something interesting to explore.
Yeah, I just actually had a conversation with Shannon Lind this past week, who's the curator of EQ Bank, and their collection is focused on digital collections. And now, in this stay home work world, they're really thinking through what's next for art collections as well. So not always physical things in office spaces if people aren't in offices, but how you can create digital work and collections for your team to enjoy, whether through like desktops or screensavers and all that kind of stuff, and having work be created for those spaces. It's interesting territory.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting. It's a great time to be a digital artist, actually.
Yeah. So something I want to ask you about is that this past year we worked together on the NEO commissioning program, which is a partnership program with OCAD University that commissions alumni to create work for NEO's clients. I just want to hear from you what it was like to be part of a commissioning process like that, and maybe something that you learned through going through that process.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole process was amazing. It really is a great partnership with OCAD and NEO, like this gateway for emerging artists into these large collections is amazing. So the commissioning process was a lot of fun. It was working back and forth with these corporations and these funds that are joining the exchange, and getting a small brief from them, and then putting together the proposal and have presenting your proposal and such. And and that the program was supposed to kind of all be in person, but then it migrated online, and still it really enjoyable experience with the online. And I'm still getting used to it's a year in and I'm still trying to do artist talks online properly. I just got used to them in person, and but it was fantastic. And everyone from NEO was amazing. Definitely, for any OCAD students, I'd highly recommend applying. And it was it was quite a bit of work, but it was a lot of it's very rewarding, and definitely highly recommended.
Yeah, you created some great work for the program or as part of the program, and I got the sense that it was a fun challenge, and you experimented quite a bit too, which I was happy to see as well. You taking those risks with the new work you were creating.
Yeah, definitely. I think Neo, was the perfect kind of catalyst, I guess, for this exciting new kind of ground kind of breaking territory for my own practice, like just to try something new and exciting. They were all for it, the sky was the limit. So yeah, just having that freedom was awesome. And
So you mentioned you're currently working full time and completing a postgraduate degree, and you've still been making new work that we've all been enjoying. So that's super impressive. I would just love to know how you swing it and what that balance is like.
it's probably a little much. I know. I mean, we're all at home nowadays. So I do probably spend way too much time on my computer. I'll work all day, and then school is online, and then after work on weekends and after work on my free time, I'm making work. I'm just so excited to do it. So I definitely think it's just the drive. It's just the passion for it. Like I just can't stop. It's just consumes my brain. Like make work. Like and also, yeah, my job is in games. It's also art, and what I'm going to school for is art, and it's for games as well. So it kind of all fits nicely together, and there's no big jumps in what I'm doing or the way I'm thinking. I can stay in a pretty creative space all day. So after work, I'm not too burnt out to work on some new animations or renders or stuff, do some submissions, like yeah. So just the balance is precarious, but
Kind of full on.
yeah, that's it, just full on. Yeah.
Sometimes we have such limitations on time and budget as artists. I wanted to ask you, if you kind of had an endless amount of time and budget to create a dream project, what might that look like? So I know it's kind of a big question, but curious to know if there's something that you've kind of always wanted to do or look forward to doing someday.
I don't know if I have one specific thing, but I have a shopping list of kind of dream ideas, I guess. One of the limitations though really is my computing power at the moment. Like when I the final stage of making this work is rendering it, and a large piece of work on my computer can take like 7 days to render, and so I can't use my computer for 7 days, and I've got work. And so I definitely think like I want to try and do something like a digital work, really, really large format though. So like prints that are like 22 feet by like 16, like full walls. And I would want projects as I move forward to become even more like immersive. So something I think would be super cool would be to do like full room projections. And with audio and like soundscapes. So like in a gallery space, you could I mean, that's the thing I love most about going. I used to spend like every day at the AGO back when I was in OCAD, and like just going in there and like that transportation of being somewhere else. And I always remember on the contemporary the fourth floor, there was and I can't remember the artist, but there was a light shadow projection room, and just being in there and like getting lost in there was amazing. So I would love to create like a fully immersive kind of room experience, even with maybe some like large scale 3D printing of the kind of scenery in the scene. Yeah, and also like definitely that's limiting. I need to acquire projectors or a larger gallery who has that equipment. But also like screens can be like I can acquire a number of screens, but like to like have immersive kind of stuff like that, it's a little limiting. But yeah, like I want to find out ways to make the work like really transport you. So I think my dream project would be something like that. And I mean, I have some cool might be subjective, but I have a bunch of ideas for maybe some collaborative works that I want to do too. Now that like everyone's at home, seeing like my audience on Instagram, like I kind of thinking of ways like to get them involved with the works, and some kind of like immersion in that sense would be really cool.
Yeah,
I have a specific project actually I think I'm going to start pretty soon. So I won't say any details now. I'm going to keep it a secret, but
you're gonna keep us checking back.
Yeah, Instagram at no. For sure. Yeah. So my goal is to just get more and more computers. No. No. Yeah. But dream project. That's a pretty tough question. So.
I think
But
that's
had a lot of
great.
fun.
Thinking about building an immersive environment, I can totally see your work moving in that direction. And I don't know if you've ever played with VR experiences or building that out, but I could definitely see you taking over, a room in a museum and having us totally enter these worlds. So I think it'd be really, really fun.
Yeah, for sure. That's the dream.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah.